I would say that the economic impact of immigrants in the state of Minnesota is important. It's getting more and more important with every year. Minnesota has the largest percentage of immigrants now in the year 2014 of its population than they've had in 100 years. You have to go back well over 100 years to arrive at this same level of immigration realities in our state. So in other words, you know, what's going on right now is not new to Minnesota. We've been through this before. It was different people. It was Germans and Norwegians, etc. But it's the same, in many ways the same thing. It's just that it happened so long ago that people have forgotten what it's like to live in a society with so many immigrants.
Immigrants are a way to regenerate an economy. They have always been the engine of economic growth of the United States, always. Of course, not alone. They do it in combination with democracy, democratic institutions, constitutional law, great education, and business opportunities. Without them, the economy of the state would suffer tremendously.
The economic impact is great. A lot of people don't realize it. You know, some of the food that we have with the farmers, we wouldn't be able to have on our table. A lot of the meat packing companies and manufacturing companies that are low-level entry jobs, a lot of people do not want to do at that type of pay. And we wouldn't be able to get the produce that we have out to other countries with grains. And again, the hotel industry wouldn't have all the people to do all the house cleaning, the janitors and office cleaning that a lot of the immigrant workers do.
There's a lot of debate around whether or not undocumented workers have a negative effect on the local labor market, job startups, creations of new businesses. But actually a lot of that is really misinformed. The bottom line is that whether they're undocumented or not is irrelevant to the fact that they become part of the economic activity of a community. In business, for instance, we have Lake Street in Minneapolis as an example. I remember Lake Street 30 years ago. It was pretty much a ghost town. You know, the properties there were all covered up. There was a lot of crime. There was nothing good happening there. You go down Lake Street now, and it's an incredibly vibrant community with taquerias, with retail, you know, Mexican, Latino, Central American retail sellers. A lot of activity going on there. And of course, you know, local government capturing then the sales taxes and the property taxes that come out of that, plus hiring lots of regular citizens to be able to do that work as well. When it comes to labor, the thought is that undocumented people compete with other workers. And I think the better way to think about it is that all workers compete with other workers. But the even better way to think about it, and there's been a lot of studies around this, is that the labor markets don't work the way people think they work, where it's a zero-sum game, you know, where, you know, there's only 10 jobs, and if you have 10 undocumented, they're going to take it away from 10 other people who are citizens. That's not how it works. The way it works is that if you have good labor, hardworking, skilled labor, people that show up on time and do good work, they're going to generate activity that's going to create even more jobs. And frankly, if you're talking for many undocumented workers, you really are talking about a lot of entry-level, hard labor jobs. Those become the jobs that make it possible for people further up the food chain, if you will, you know, managers, accountants, attorneys, financiers, makes it possible for them to have jobs because they don't have to do that work. They're able to make their income off of that work and then open up more opportunities for them there. So there's a really strong relationship between the hard labor of undocumented people and the rest of the labor force.
For the most part, a lot of them are paying taxes, so which will, you know, also stir the economy for growth. They didn't receive the amount of taxes that they're paying. We wouldn't have probably a lot of the funds to fix our roads, to help with some of the schools, to help better and the growth of our economy. Those taxes contribute a lot to helping improve the economy overall.
There is a misunderstanding on the part of the general public about undocumented workers not paying taxes. If a company hires an undocumented worker, they have to collect taxes. And for example, there is an amount that is estimated, nobody knows for sure how much comes from the payments of taxes of undocumented workers, but that fund represents, the last time that I checked a few years ago, about $50 billion in Social Security reserves. That's a huge amount of money, and a lot of it, we don't know how much, a lot of it is paid by the undocumented workers. They don't collect the benefits because they're undocumented.
That the undocumented workers are paying into a system, the Social Security system, that is creating benefits for citizens here. So right now we have elderly American citizens who are able to receive a monthly check, in part because of the earnings that undocumented workers are putting into that system. Well, one of the interesting things that Minnesota faces, and actually the whole nation faces it, but in many ways Minnesota faces it more, is that we have a very, very rapidly aging workforce. We are a heavily white, Anglo culture, racial state. 70% of Minnesotans are classified as white. Well, that's the one demographic group that isn't growing, that's aging very rapidly. Which means that if we're going to maintain prosperity into the future, we're going to have to go elsewhere to look for people to participate in the labor markets. And not just the hard labor, but all labor markets.
The communities that are growing because they have younger members are the minority populations, such as the Latino population, which grew by 75% in Minnesota between the year 2000 and 2010. While the European American majority grew by 1.6% during that same period. So the obvious and best solution long term is to have those young people join the workforce and find jobs that will be good enough to pay for Social Security, for Medicare, for Medicaid, and all the other growing needs of the economy.
Minnesota has a very special relationship with immigrant workers, including undocumented immigrant workers. We have several sectors that are very big in our society: milk production, harvesting of certain crops like beets, for instance, landscaping work, to a lesser degree hospitality work. Meat processing is huge in our state. These are big parts of the Minnesota economy, and without the labor needed, and I know some people think of it as unskilled, it's actually skilled work. To work hard is skilled. Without them, those sectors would be in real trouble, which means the state of Minnesota would be in real trouble.
If you don't have facts, then you tend to judge emotionally. And if you think, for example, as some people do, that undocumented immigrants are people who violate the laws or come here to look for social services, you're going to be offended and you're going to be afraid and you're going to be wrong. Because the facts attest to something else.
I think it's very important for people to understand that immigrant workers aren't here to take our jobs or aren't here to try to do harm to us. They want to be productive people. And they start off with jobs that perhaps many of us do not want to take. They want to work hard and they want to contribute. And we have to be open-minded, and if we don't understand, we need to ask. I think that people need to be informed. I think many people have myths about what an immigrant worker coming into the U.S. is that they're not bringing us more harm, but they're helping us to grow and keep the economy growing.
Yeah, I think it's really important that Minnesotans understand the economic impact of immigrant workers, especially of undocumented workers. Because, we're being asked right now to make decisions politically that could harm us, that could hurt us. We're being asked to deny humanity to these people, but also status to these folks who are here to work, are doing a terrific job of feeding our economy. And if we don't really understand the facts, if we don't understand the reality, we can make the wrong decision. The wrong decision not only hurts them, but it also hurts us, it hurts our economy. So it's important for us to demystify all the messages that we're getting about, unfortunately, about undocumented workers as people who take away, when in fact they're people who give. We need to know the truth about that so that we can take full advantage of that, of course in a humane way, but so that we can make really smart, intelligent decisions.
DocU is supported in part by an award from the National Endowment for the Arts, Artworks, the McKnight Foundation, and SPNN.